I'm just saying, guys. There's way, way too many superheroes. In fact, if only there was some way of getting rid of all of them. Forever. For good. We're recording? Oh, shit. Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Power Podcast with me, Joe, Alex, and Sam. So today, we're going to be talking about...
scarcity.
Looking through my notes, Sam. Power scarcity and abundance. Oh, that bit was not worth
No,
it.
you see, what the problem
Was that meant to be a joke?
The problem is that you initiated the House of M, so now we can't talk about it now because there's no more mutants. Thanks
No
a
more
lot,
what?
Joe.
Sorry, no more what?
Oh, no.
You know what? Thanos was right. We should have just killed everyone instead. Me and you, universe, with no heroes.
And technically no
It'll
villains.
work.
Because,
Yes.
who could blame Thanos? Anyway, so, today we're going to be talking about power scarcity and power abundance. If you don't know what that means, it basically means scarcity means very little of something, and abundance means a lot of something. For example...
Am I going?
I think it was
me?
supposed to be Sam, but okay.
It was supposed to be Sam, but it's like me.
I mean, next time, Sam.
For example,
Well.
Sam...
I'm both scarcity and abundant. Anyway, no, the example I have for scarcity is Watchmen. There is no super people. They're strong, they're trained. There is only one super person. Ergo, Dr. Manhattan, who is a god, more or less.
Yeah, pretty much.
And pretty much he is the only, and it even shows, like, in the movie and both the comic, that people are very much afraid of him. Because he is the only superhero. Whereas everyone else, I can punch you real hard. I'm just a mortal. I'm just a human.
I'm able to stop you. I'm able to hit you with a car. I'm able to shoot you. I'm able to murder you. I'm able to run away from you. You can't say any of that with Dr. Manhattan.
And in fact, the only way they even found to, quote unquote, I don't even want to say defeat, but get around him was to kind of screw up his senses momentarily with science. And that was about it. They couldn't defeat him or kill him. All they could do was momentarily disorientate him.
Or just manipulate him. Like, he can only really understand, you don't really see, the past, present, and future through his eyes. So you can pull one over on him. Like, and because of his, like, godlike status, he kind of, like, gets disconnected from humanity. So, like, it's kind of easy to frame him. Because of that, because he's just sort of like experiencing his entire existence of eternity at once. So he's kind of got bigger things to think about than like framing him for the murder of hundreds of people.
One quick aside.
Okay.
I have to say this. I think that was a good thing they did for the movie instead of the comic. One change they did was instead of just it being aliens. Do you know what? It's Dr. Manhattan that destroyed New York and these various other cities. The one problem I have with that was, of course, that humanity would still be immediately screwed over because he is a god, essentially, and is unstoppable. It makes more sense than being aliens.
One of my favourite things about that is that the fact that he just doesn't care, and so therefore he doesn't bother doing anything. What's the thing for abundance?
I should say he did kind of care.
Well, to some degree, he didn't really care about being framed because he left. It's like, you're not allowed on this planet anymore. Oh no, how terrible! And he just basically makes an entire new.
The only thing he gave a shit about was his girlfriend, and she dumped him. So, yeah,
that's what you get for quote unquote banging jailbait.
Oh.
That's what they said in the movie. Yay! Anyway, so go on, Sam. Abundance.
And he left because he wanted to keep the secret and save Earth-ish. But no, the abundance one I have, of course, is kind of the counter one. The one they got all the heroes are homaged from, or like pastiches of, the universe. It has many, 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 many heroes. In fact, there's lists of thousands of heroes. And even then, these thousands of heroes tend to have at least a dozen enemies. Normally, with superpowers of their own. Like, or if not superpowers, at least... even if they're like technologically
But Sam,
advanced.
what
is
is this?
Superpowers at least one.
What is this? What could this possible universe be that you're talking about? That is not only a thing that took many different inspirations that had many different inspirations taken from the Watchmen, or at least the Watchmen took from them. What could this universe be?
Didn't I say the DC universe?
No, you didn't say.
No, you cut out at that point.
Oh, sorry. I did. What I meant was they're pastiches of characters from DC universe, like The Question and Rorschach,
Yes.
Doctor Manhattan, and I think the Atom. I want to say, or Captain Atom.
Yes, Captain Atom, because the Atom is the guy who's based on Ant-Man. Captain Atom is the guy who can manipulate and generate radiation, although the difference between him and Dr. Manhattan is it's not about radiation, he just happens to be slightly radioactive.
Maybe it's like Firestarter or whatever he's called.
Oh,
the guy who can manipulate.
Yeah, Firestorm.
Firestorm, the guy who can manipulate all the elementals and just make stuff out of thin air because he can.
Both of them, kind of, really.
Yeah, they're pastiches, pretty much, more or less.
Right.
Of course, like Owlman, which is based directly on Batman. Yeah, based on Batman. But even Batman in various incarnations has had superpowers.
I mean, Owlman didn't have any superpowers.
But yeah, that's what I mean, is that in the DC universe, there is an abundance of superpowered beings.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
whereas in Watchmen, there is but one.
So much so that they have multiple different multiverses, universes, and other types of what-if stories and comics. As he said, villains, or like, for instance, one hero may have several different villains, most of which, if not all of which, will have superpowers. Like, for instance, the Flash Rogues Gallery, most of them don't have superpowers, but the ones that do are either the same powers as him, or time manipulation, or the ability of ice generation and manipulation if you're looking at Killer Frost, and so on and so forth. But then you've got
and even Captain Cold in one in a comic book series where he did actually get superpowers to manipulate cold with his hands.
Yes, but not really. Although in the comics there is a version of him that's a metahuman, but instead the way that it works is he is resilient to the cold.
That was in the New 52.
Yeah, that's the only special ability that he has. Is just he's super resilient to cold. Kind of similar to Mr. Freeze, except for he doesn't need the cold to survive. So, take it or leave it. But you got obviously Superman.
And he looked literally cold.
You got Superman and Zod, Parasite, and what's his name? I guess you could also, Deadwire, but you could also technically also say, I guess, Metallo, because Metallo is literally powered by the very thing that is his weakness, kryptonite. So again, take it or leave it, really. But either way, just a lot of villains, and quite a lot of them have superpowers as well. So yeah, an abundance. Darkseid is kind of a villain of all of them, but but either way, Darkseid is a god. Or at least
even in the future, they have like the Legion of Superheroes.
Yeah, where it's just
a bunch of aliens with superpowers. Yeah, and some of them are useless, like Arm Fall Off Boy
and
or
Big
Balloon
Lung
Boy
Lad
or Matter Eater Boy. I mean, I should say
I don't know. Matter Eater
the best team of all time is of course the Legion of Substitute Superheroes.
I still think Big Lung Boy might be in the next DC film, so just keep an eye out for him. He can hold his breath for days at a time, maybe even weeks or months.
Or like Plant Boy, where he can make them grow slightly faster.
So, Alex, what about you? So, do you have any examples for abundance or scarcity?
Well, this is the fantasy portion of the podcast, because both of my examples turn out to be fantasy, believe it or not. I mean, I had a little difficulty finding the abundance one, actually, funnily enough. The scarcity one that I've got is Harry Potter, and that's something that I've known very well since I was a kid, and the whole basis of the magical society is that there are only a small portion of wizards in the entire population, and that's based partly on genetics. I mean, it's never really confirmed in the books, but there's been a lot of speculation that The wizarding gene is a recessive gene. So basically, what that means is that when you have like two wizards together, you usually create a another wizard.
Hmm.
But you can also have Muggleborns and Half-Bloods and stuff, provided that the recessive gene that's being passed on is in both, parents. So that's how you get Muggleborns. Like maybe there was a wizard like far back in their ancestry,
Hmm.
and by sheer luck they managed to do it. It's kind of like how redheads work in real life.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it works there. And also it's made even worse by the fact that magical society is a secret society.
Yeah.
So breeding outside of that society is usually taboo. And as was confirmed in Fantastic Beasts, it was illegal to actually do that. Like you could not, marry or, have children, as with muggles or people of non-magical heritage. It just was not done. You could yeah, I mean, yeah, I think you could actually just be like possibly put to death. It's not, again, it's sort of like, it's shaky morality in the wizarding world.
Right, but
If you do that.
the thing is that when you and I were talking about this earlier,
Mm.
you and I were saying about this, and Sam, you said, "Is that really scarcity?" And obviously, we said, "Well, they are." They are a secret society, as stated, but the mass public know nothing about it. So, to that degree, even if there is hundreds of thousands, or even if there is, like, I don't know, like a million, there's still, like, 6 or 7 billion people that don't know about it. Like, it's not like the entire world. And again, they're on, like, secret locations and secret islands and stuff like that. They're not, like, out in the obvious plains, and you have to like secret illusionary barriers and stuff so that then people can't get to them normally, and so on and so forth. And certain ones, I think, like they talk about, like in the Goblet of Fire, there's one that's on an island in the middle of nowhere, and everyone literally has to fly in to get to it, or have like apparition or portation magic that would allow them to get there. So it's like, again, like it's not well known even in this age of technology. They're able to completely like cloak it from that. And there's even like Azkaban prison is again in the middle of nowhere, and again cloaked and covered with all of these like soul-eating creatures. And yeah, so I
Also, one thing I do have to bring up as well is because of this secrecy and because of this really sort of gated nature of this secret society, there is an incest problem. Like there is a real genuine inbreeding problem. Yeah. And this isn't like just me being mean. Like there is like a lot of like quote unquote pureblood families, as confirmed in the book, can date back to like about a handful of families. Like they all trace back to like just 4 families. Like most purebloods are interrelated.
I mean,
and
they
yeah,
do confirm
that's
that
scarcity,
Merlin
man.
actually was a real wizard and was one of the most powerful wizards back in the day. Like, they actually did
Yeah,
claim
he was a Slytherin as well. So.
Yeah, so it's like that thing of like either way, like so he was one of them, and then either he had children or whatever, and so on and so forth. But I mean, like, so that is general like scarcity. Even if it seems like there's an abundance of them, it's still that thing of like, yeah, but if you think about the percentage, it's that thing of like, yeah, there's like 1 million, as I said before, but out of 7 billion, that's nothing really. Like, so yeah, that's an interesting scarcity. It's a larger scale scarcity, but it's still a scarcity nonetheless. Because even though that we in the films see only mostly the wizards, it would be boring if it was like, anyway, so you're a wizard in a human school forever. It's actually, the whole point is about wizards having to learn how to control their magic, so therefore they have to be shipped with all of these other kids who are also magical. So therefore that's why there's an abundance of magical beings in these schools, because they have to take them and put them all together. So, because of that, that's why it seems like an abundance, but it actually, in the truth of it, as you said, it's a secret society, but we only really see from the perspective of that secret society inside of it. So
And it is also, I think that what I find like comforting about Harry Potter, I could talk for hours about Harry Potter and my love and gripes with it, but I think it's that sort of atmosphere, especially sort of like this jolly boarding school atmosphere that a lot of like minority groups really liked about it because it is sort of like you've got this one thing, you come from disparate parts of a world, but you're all kind of thrust together because you share this one very rare trait, and you don't feel alone because of that, because well, we're all in this together, we all have this very special skill that we have to develop together.
yeah.
And that's something that's very sort of, that's just something that's very comforting about that.
No,
But especially if you're a kid, yeah, if you're feeling like a bit of an outcast.
I'm actually quite surprised that Sam, you've sort of like not said anything. I can see that you've muted yourself on Discord, but you said like zero amount of input for this. I'm actually quite surprised that you didn't have any things to add to this.
Like Harry Potter. Harry Potter's good.
All right then, and
Good input, Sam.
That's about as much as I have to say on the subject.
and abundance.
Oh yeah. Actually, this is the thing, because I had a lot of trouble finding examples of abundance, like I said, but I stumbled onto this anime that manga as well, but anime that I've never really heard of, but it looks freaking fantastic. It's called Black Clover.
Have you
And
watched or read it?
No, well, I've started watching it because it's interesting.
Ah, okay. Well,
So-
depending on the way that you say it, I might have to just get this fact checked. I do actually have my brother in the same room. He's sitting here.
Oh,
quietly.
really? No, so you watch Black Clover?
I can so I can ask him if it doesn't
Yay.
seem fact checked. So go on.
Yeah, I haven't finished the whole series yet. Obviously, I've only just discovered it just in the researching of this podcast. So yeah, but yeah, it's cool. Basically, the premise is it's a magical world. Everybody has magical powers and a set amount of mana, which they draw their magical power from. And this is just like a rite of passage. It's like literally everybody has it, except this one kid called Asta, who basically has no mana and no magical abilities, it seems. And he is pretty much the only one that we know of in the entire world that has that. Like that,
Really?
you can't get more abundant than that. Yeah, he's like the only one, and
Right.
there's like, but that's kind of interesting because because he wants to. His ambition is to be like, the greatest wizard, like the Wizard Emperor.
I think it's
essentially. So
the
it's
Wizard
like,
King,
magic.
and
Wizard
that
King.
time is up. You've now made your first mistake,
Aw.
so we're gonna have to get the fact checker.
For God's sake.
Bill. Black Clover. Is Asta the only person who doesn't have magic? Is it a world full of magical users? Yeah. So he's the only person who doesn't have magic. All right, well done, Wizard King. By the way, not Wizard
maybe have
Emperor.
maybe have a little trust. Maybe have a little trust.
You have
I
to
do
earn
my
that trust,
research.
Alex.
Whatever. Such a dick. Oh my god.
I
It's
am.
like,
I am.
yeah, but like that becomes kind of his own superpower because because he hasn't got any mana and he's got no magic. He can't actually be detected through that. Like
Yeah.
people have like wards to like
He just
detect magic and
bulks
stuff. But he
himself
hasn't-
up though, doesn't he? Like he becomes.
Oh yeah, he
joke-
compensates by being physically strong.
The
like
joke
just
is he's called
yeah.
Abster because he's got abs for days. But he does actually get given a grimoire, and he still gets given something. But it's actually because that he doesn't have magic that the grimoire is
Yeah,
only built
exactly.
for him, and it allows him to create, spoiler alert, anti-magic weapons that basically can destroy magic upon contact with anything magical.
Yeah,
Or at
it's
least-
like,
or at least it breaks
it's
the
basically
bonds.
nullifying ability.
Yeah. It's basically nullifying.
So-
Although I think he gets another one
yeah.
later where you can like reflect it or it absorbs magic. That's it. Yeah.
He's also got like a demon as well so he can come into like his anti-magic form because he makes a deal with this cool demon.
I mean, yeah, sure, like every other
Yeah.
anime.
So-
So
Yeah, but still,
So those were good picks, definitely. However, the ones that I've gone for are I'm gonna talk about it, and I know that everyone's gonna hate me. So here we go. Scarcity, Misfits, the TV show, the British TV show, Misfits. It's about young offenders on community service, and suddenly a storm hits and they get powers. Now, it seems as though at first it's only them, but then you find out later that there's more people and more people and more people every episode, or every other episode seems to have at least one person that has a power from the storm. Now, you do later find out that, like, technically, despite the fact there are a lot of powers out there, not everyone's affected, not everyone has a power, and not everyone even knows that they have a power, because some turn out to be certain things. But the powers aren't necessarily powers, like, half the time. Like, some of them can be, like, something as great as immortality, mind control, the ability to download yourself and undownload things into and out of the internet into your own mind, or something. Telekinesis, the ability to turn invisible and being unable to be heard, or, like, inaudible. However, others end up becoming something like this one guy sees everything as a video game, and he acts like the character from said video game. And it actually just turns out that it's basically kind of like a split personality / mental illness thing. And they still call it a power, but it's like, it doesn't give him any advantages. If anything, it just makes him perceive the world in a very incorrect way, because he sees people as, like, the targets of this video game, and he tries to kill people, and so on and so forth. One person just turns into a tortoise. That's it. He can't turn back. He's just tortoise. And that's it. And just, you know, certain powers are that. But again, it's this thing of not everyone knows about it. Not very little people actually talk about it, unless if they have them. So again, that's kind of scarcity, but the reason that I wanted to talk about this is, Alex, you brought this up very well, which was Harry Potter, because again, Secret Society, it's abundancy in the show, but in the lore and also in the way that they've spoken about the show, it is still a scarcity, because there's not that many people in the entire population of the world. Not many people have it, and very little people talk about it. And there's, like, nothing on the news, that people don't talk about it in the public, and so on and so forth. Again, it's just this more sort of secret down low thing. And then my abundancy one is, of course, My Hero Academia, as they state, 80%. No.
Join me, Sam. Join me, Sam. Boo. Unmute.
Ha 80% of the population all have the powers.
At least it's not One Piece.
That's true.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up. No.
Be glad that I made him choose My Hero Academia.
Don't worry. That will come up at some point, but it's not important right now, because we're actually now going to get into something in a second. I'd say now, but in a second. Basically, in My Hero Academia, people get superpowers. Again, they're born with them, similar to the bits and pieces that you were actually saying about with people being born with magical powers. Instead, it's actually superpowers. Some superpowers are entirely random. Some of them are based on their parents' heritage. For instance, this one guy gets half cold, half hot, because his dad has fire powers and his mum has ice powers, and eventually he gets the abilities of both, but only one from each side. So, like, his left side has one power and his right side has the other, and so on and so forth. And even Bakugo's explosion power comes from the fact that his father has, like, an oxidization quirk, and his mother has a quirk called glycerin, where she could create a glycerin-like substance from her hands, and both of their quirks come from their hands. His sweat is like a nitroglycerin-like substance, or at least a glycerin substance, and he's able to then oxidize it. And because of that, he's then able to make it suddenly very volatile and explosive. And because of this, out of two quirks that just seemed kind of meh, eventually just become explosion, and it's one of the most ridiculously powerful quirks in the series. And it is, it's brilliant. So now we're going to get onto it, because obviously we've talked about, like, our different examples, and I feel like I've talked about My Hero Academia enough on these podcasts, so we're actually just going to get straight on into it, because the next thing that I wanted to actually talk about is, we're actually going to talk about abundancy. The actual, just, if I do it at some point, I might want to try and do this at some point where I just put a big old transition where it just says abundancy, but until then, we'll just highlight it there. So, in a lot of shows, and in a lot of games, and in a lot of lore from Both. In the forms of storytelling, especially recently, they have done abundancy very, very much so. Because in the first ever comics of Superman, Flash, Batman and stuff, not a lot of people were metahumans. It was just like, Superman is the only one sort of thing. Look at him being able to tank bullets. Or the Flash, look how fast he is, and so on and so forth. I mean, the Batman comics were called the detective comics, or the Great Detective.
Yeah, it was mostly just detective work, really. It was just solving mini mysteries.
Just where we get DC from.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, ow. Sorry, I'm just in this new chair, and I've just trapped my leg. There we go. So the main thing that I just really wanted to talk about with abundancy is where do you think it works well, and where do you think it doesn't work? So we'll talk about where do you think it works well first, and then we'll talk about where do you think it doesn't work well. So, I personally think that it works quite well in comics and constant ever-going series. Like abundancy could be really good because you could, like, again with Misfits, with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, with My Hero Academia, with One Piece, you can just go, there's as many abilities as we need. But again, with the Harry Potter thing, it's like there's as many different types of wizards and witches as they need. With Black Clover, everyone has a specialized grimoire. So again, there's as many of the different types of magic users as they need. And some magics are similar, but not always the same. And obviously, there's a couple that are just like the most ridiculously overpowered ones. So. I'll let's say, Sam, you've been quiet the longest. What would you say is, what would you say is a good way of saying, what's good about power abundancy?
Well, it could be great for light settings. I want to say, quote unquote, light, where it's because most things can be fixed with superpowers. Like most diseases can be easily fixed if you have superpowers.
Okay, fair enough.
Pretty much like people, because there's always going to be someone with like super intelligence. Oh, I will cure cancer.
Or is
fix the ozone layer
of healing.
I don't think that's the thing. I feel that's a little bit of a lack of imagination because I would think that
Sam.
I mean, this is just my I mean, it's not like that.
Sam,
it's not like that.
You.
I mean,
we love you, but you
it's
are
not
very.
like that.
Okay.
You are very straightforward.
I mean, that is something that happens in both the DC and Marvel universe.
Oh,
where
yes,
it's like,
definitely.
There's loads of smart people. They can cure anything. All of the environment, we can fix that. Or like, that's what I mean by a light setting, where like, there are problems, but they're usually fixed in an afternoon.
Yeah, I mean I find that it really does depend on the code because I don't think that necessarily means that abundance, can be, is facilitating that because you can easily just have like a terrible world just like ours.
Yeah, I mean
but with superpowers.
Technically, you could also just have it that it's like, oh yeah, you have the powers to do this, that, and the other. Why don't you, the one and only person who has this powers of practically God, do this on your own? You're right, I should do that instead of doing whatever they're currently doing. So, I
wanted to make dinosaurs.
I do have reasons for why I'm saying specifically light for this at the moment because I have the opposite for scarcity. But abundance tends to be, from what I've seen, light. Of course, because it's a lot more difficult to make it like
no one's coming to save you, sort of situation.
Yeah, let's give an example like Watchman. Okay, let's say the one superhero, the one powerful being decides, screw it, I'm going to become evil now. Very rarely, in an abundant setting, will there be people who say, well, okay, we're screwed. Let's just let him do it then. We can't fight back. Usually in an abundant setting, there's people like that.
Chase, isn't it? The challenge is in the fight.
Yeah, because usually there's people who can fight back. Because there's people like, oh, I may not be super strong, but I can outthink him. I may not be super strong, but I can make walls to put him into. I can manipulate his mind. Like usually in an abundance thing, there's no such thing as like the we're screwed scenario. Even the world killer, like Galactus in the Marvel universe, they've stopped him many times from eating Earth. It's like, well, we'll join together and stop him. We're abundant with superpowers.
Yeah,
got loads of them.
Fair enough. I mean,
that's what I mean by light settings. Is what I mean.
Okay, so what's bad about it then? What do you think is bad about an abundancy?
Well, it can make you wonder things about mostly because it's a very abundant setting. I will talk about I'll probably go with DC on this actually. Like mostly whenever there's a big disaster or like say an event is happening in a comic.
Yeah.
For example, like say let's say like what do you call the Teen Titans villain? The Raven Trigon. Say Trigon's coming to Earth. Trigon is on Earth. And the Teen Titans are just there like, we'll stop you. And you're wondering, why aren't all the other heroes stopping this guy? Superman.
You're a lot of plot holes. Abundance can create a lot of plot holes. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Or even that the kind of removes all tension because at some point you think...
Yeah, because then you're just thinking...
Worst case scenario, the Teen Titans die. But you know what? There's people who will stop him. Like, I mean, you can't really destroy the Earth considering there's all these other people here.
They do an animated show with that, like an animated film called Teen Titans versus the Justice League. And
I know.
They literally do that because it's like Trigon is now here, and that's the only way that they could do it, where it's like, oh yeah, and now Trigon is also affecting and messing with the Justice League.
He's mind controlling them.
Yeah, and it's the literal only way that they could do it is because, like, if Trigon, as he said, comes to Earth or unleashed hell upon the Earth, and doesn't affect those ones first, he's basically just rolling over and going, yeah, I'm just going to annoy these kids for about 15 minutes, and then Superman's going to come and punch me in my oddly perfect jawline for a demon.
Or not even Superman, because I will admit Superman can be hurt by magic a lot.
Okay, right.
But there's mystical people like Dr. Fate who are just there like, this is not you would stop that because they... Or, more importantly, there's the right hand of God over there, the Spectre.
Okay,
I would not allow a demon on Earth.
I'm going to have to put this to rest. The reason why Superman can be harmed by magic is not because he's weak to it. It's because it's the only thing that he's not resistant to. Like, people always make this mistake, and I know I'm going to sound like, actually, but the thing is that, okay, the best way to put it this way is, magic is considered an or illogical, like, ability.
Natural.
Yeah, it's kind of unnatural, kind of. It's not real. It's not like, like natural forces or anything like that. It's actually just like creating or manipulating chaos. But ultimately, it's altering science, and therefore, since Superman's physiology is not based off of anything other than science, it hurts him just as much as it would hurt Wonder Woman or, well, I don't know about that, but Batman or Flash. Wonder Woman. Because Batman and Flash, they have still human physiologies, and they have nothing that makes them resistant to magic. Although I'm pretty sure there's like some bullcrap that they could pull where it's like, oh, and the Speed Force can protect him, and Batman
anti-magic ring,
anti-magic ring. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but that's the reason why Superman can be hard. But everyone says that he's weak to it. It's like, no, it's just the one thing that it hurts him. Like technically speaking, it hurts humans.
Technically speaking. If he's resistant to nearly all things, it would technically be a weakness. He'd be weak to... If he's resistant to all things, it would be technicality. A weak thing, he'd be weak too.
Yes,
if he's just dealing with it normally.
Say it like as if it hurts him more than it would hurt anything else or hurt any other particular creature. If Zod came to the Earth, or even just a normal human was passing by and they all got hit by the special death ray made of magic, they'd all die just as quickly. Like, there's no difference because that it affects them in the exact same way.
Yeah, but who would die harder, is what we're saying. Who would die harder?
Every one of them dies as hard as each other.
Anyway, this is an argument for a different video.
Yeah, this is a different video, yeah.
Why does Superman get hurt by magic? Tune in next time. No.
It's time for Alex to do their award now.
So what do you think is good about abundancy?
Well, it is just sort of like, it lends itself to kind of Monster of the Week sort of formula stuff. It's like, it's like superhero showcase. It's like, look at this cool new power that's come up, and look at this one. Like, I mean, it's like constant character creation, which is good. You're right. It lends itself more to like series than movies, because like in movies it can be a bit overwhelming because you've only got limited time to like showcase all of these cool abilities. So it's best to focus on a few. And also, like, yeah, it is just sort of like it's raised tension if you've only got like a certain small power set to work with,
Right.
rather than like having everyone be having like literally just phone up someone, say, yeah, you're the MacGuffin warrior. Yeah, all right. Yeah, come in, MacGuffin warrior. You'll solve this problem.
So like it's all of the things that are bad about it that Sam was saying, you're actually saying is good about it, because it can become that thing of like, hey, this one character that seems like a MacGuffin, they're here for this week because reasons, and they can do stuff, reasons, allow them to do this, so therefore we're going to allow them to beat the villain who actually came here because of reasons, and therefore we now win, thanks, reasons. I mean, Amazer lad.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, provided this is the thing, because if you keep doing it over and over again, it can get, with like the same hero, that can get repetitive. But if it's like doing it in certain ways, like you could literally create a program called Hero of the Week.
Yes.
Where you phone up someone who's got a power, maybe they have like self-consciousness issues, where it's like, oh, I don't know how my power's going to be, helpful in this, guys. But they call them up anyway. It's like, no, your power specifically beats this villain, so do it, and throw them into it and watch them, overcome this villain that you wouldn't normally see overcome, but they've got the perfect power set for it. I'd watch the hell out of that.
Dr. Satine could have definitely ended up being that character who calls them on their like super phone, where they just go, oh, well, from campaign session number 12, we now actually have this other guy who's our friend. He has the power of something, and now he can actually beat the villain who also has a weakness to something, and now we can call him up as like, use I know a guy, and then just calls the dude up, and then all of a sudden it's just like, yeah, now go character who can use something. And then obviously, you just got
that would be amazing. I'd like to think that there's an alternative universe where, it's basically like Rent a Hero, and Dr. Satine has this amazing superpower of an address book that never ends.
I was actually going to say though, like okay, so I actually have to say this. So you played as Aspen, the character who can manipulate plant life, but also heal people almost entirely perfectly. You could remove disease, you could re-heal organs, regenerate entire limbs, and you could heal up wounds and damage and fatigue. You then have like characters like, for instance, Cover, and then finally you got Legion. Who do you reckon would be guest character, MacGuffin, and main character?
I mean, I'm sorry, but Legion has to be the MacGuffin.
Yeah,
because like
he comes in like
powers,
comes in like
that's one thing we can all agree on.
Like, you know what? If to put it into a way, if it was supernatural, he'd be the Castiel. And if you guys don't know that reference, which I'm sure you don't, basically imagine it like if it was the Super Friends, imagine if every now and again Dr. Fate showed up, and it's like, yeah, okay, Dr. Fate's here. But then they go, yeah, we're going to make him a series regular, but he's only going to be used whenever we feel like he might need to be, because his powers are so good and we have to actually write it into the story that why wouldn't he be here? So I think he would definitely be in the MacGuffin. I think Aspen would be the guest character, because...
Oh, definitely.
Because Aspen would just like show up like once a season and just be like, don't worry, guys! And then just heal everything, regrow a bunch of like things, create a forest, and then fight a dude whilst...
It would probably be like, considering Aspen's personality, it would be one of those episodes. It's like, like, oh, my powers aren't working so well. You guys just like, no, you have to like have a very special episode. It's like, yeah, and then we'll have this very special episode, and then we'll like my powers will work perfectly.
Do you know what it is? I think you're wrong, Joe. I think Aspen would be the main character, and Cover would be the guest star. Because Cover would be the guy who just like in the shadows, be like, "No, I will save you with my cape." Be like Meta Knight in that cartoon.
Okay, so the reason
you just want to come in with the audience applause. That's what you want to do.
Reason I say this is because I like the idea that it's more like a sillier Daredevil. Like, it's kind of almost like the Tick. But it's more like the Daredevil
Darkwing Duck.
in the things of like he comes back, takes off all of his costume, and he's like this really overtly serious guy. Like he's like almost gruffled, and he sits down covered in bruises and cuts, and he just like sits on his like couch sipping a nearly empty can of whatever, and he just sits there and goes, "I gotta go back to this at some point tomorrow. Oh, it hurts so much." And he gets back up, puts on the cape, and as he walks out, he goes, "Cover!" And then he runs on out, and it's just this thing of like, you know, you do different things, and he's trying to be like this really decent hero. He has the power to copy other people's powers, and he has like a really decent ability. And again, like the reason as to why I say like the guest character would be Aspen is because since he can copy it, it would just be that thing of like it's the episode after Aspen's been around, and then like later on you're like talking to like one of your sidekicks, and Cover just goes. Like, yeah, and thanks to Aspen, I have a little bit of a juice up. What do you mean? I was able to favorite this power that I copied from Aspen. Oh, okay, so you can now heal us. Yeah. So now I can heal you guys and everything. And so for a few episodes, it works out, and then the writers just then realize, oh, crumbs. Well, it turns out that Cover can actually just keep making his subordinates almost nigh immortal, so we have to have it that he just loses that power somehow. Just have it that he gets nullified in episode 27 of this season. Sure, okay. I don't know why there's this many episodes. Neither do I. Anyway, yeah, so then he just gets nullified, and then obviously we're just back to the whole thing of like, oh no, and then Aspen shows up like later on.
Yeah, just it gets airdropped in like Fortnite, and it's like, I'm coming, guys!
But yeah, I think that's a way that Abundance could work, where it's like, as you said, like it's guest and MacGuffin characters, and then the main sort of crew have to deal with their own. And yeah, I think it kind of works, because then you could have the thing of the loophole of, oh, why aren't they here? Well, the reason is because they have their own lives and their own jobs to do, and it's that thing of like, yeah, when it's world ending, yes, it could very well be that thing where they are now here. Or obviously it's that thing of like, sorry, I was like dealing with this other thing, and I was currently having like my head kicked in by some like dude with like the power to negate my powers or something, or even something as simple as like, oh, sorry guys, I was building a forest and then I was suddenly attacked by a bunch of like poachers or something. If it was that,
it would be just so funny as well. It's like it would be really funny as well if like a lot of the other superheroes who have all these powers are just like mentally messes. Like again, Aspen, who's mentally and emotionally a complete mess. You know, a lot of people that would be coming in for like normally would be MacGuffins can't come in because it's like they're just going through some stuff, man. You know, they got problems. They need to go to therapy. So we couldn't make it to the battle. I got to take care of myself, man, because I would probably melt everyone's brains with my powers.
Or if you're going to do it like that, you could just do it like the Tech, where 95% of it, it's not even them doing super heroics. It's just them being like, oh, we have a car problem, have to try and fix that, or just like a day in the life of superheroes, like the 2000 film, The Specials, where it's just like there's not a single act of heroics except for the ending. It's just them. It's just their politics of, I mean, I have all the crap toys. Why is like I'm like that's not my race. That's on like the Aqua, on like whatever kid toy it was. I can't remember what it was.
So I mean,
or no, my name is Minute Man, not Minute Man.
That would happen. That was because you know that someone would just misspell his or mispronounce his name after only reading it, and it's now the Angel of the Past, Legion.
So close enough.
Or a Spen.
Spen. I'm Sven.
A Spen.
In Sweden.
I mean, there's not really. I don't know how you could cock up Cover, but Cover. No, Sova. The C is used as a s, and then that's the moment where you actually just put like a capital like just K instead of like a C, and then everyone goes, it's Cover.
It's
close.
over.
Close enough. I am Cover. But okay, so I actually have a question for the both of you now, just to end off on abundancy, and then we'll go on to scarcity. Abundancy. Do you think it works well in D&D or any other tabletop RPGs where you guys are in, in a party and so on and so forth? What are your opinions of power or magical or class abundancy in the laws of, or in the universes or in the worlds?
I like it in tabletop RPGs where it's like, the understanding is that everybody has at least a bit of magic. That's just a varying amount of degrees. So it is like abundant, but like the thing is that there are people who have mastered it, and there are people who just have it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like don't really care too much about it. Like that's kind of the level I want, because if everybody had the same level of powers and knew how to do it, then it would be kind of I don't know, just be less interesting, I guess. Because then you come across people who have like unique powers and know what to do, and it's like, ooh, interesting. Whereas, if it was like abundant in like everybody knows the same spells, everybody, has the same thing, everybody can combat your magic, it would just be like, meh. So yeah, I think abundance could work really well if you give it a few tweaks.
What about you, Sam?
I mean, it is abundant in most tabletop RPGs. Like,
yeah, fair enough.
There's actually that's one thing. There was actually debating should I use D&D as an example of abundance.
Oh, okay, that would have been a good. Damn it, Sam.
Mostly because, but I decided against it because I should say there's a dozen or so settings for D&D, and I probably would have just brought up. I can't even remember what it's called now. It's the big donut place.
Damn it, Sam! A second time.
It's the one I keep saying. Your place is like Planescape.
Oh, the
you just casually, where you can just casually stroll into Thor. Like there's just demons and devils everywhere.
Okay.
Pretty much, there's just like you could legitimately see a necromancer having a pint of ale with a cleric.
Yeah, you're talking about the afterlife plane that we've got, the Omegaverse, where it's just literally just a plane of constant, ever-going realms and locations.
Kind of. Planescape is less like that. But for those like Planescape essentially is like all the alignments in D&D, like chaotic good, lawful good, evil. I mean, like lawful evil, chaotic evil, neutral evil, are kind of represented on this gigantic donut. It's like this. It's like no, it's not donuts. It's a gigantic island, so to speak, kind of separated into these realms, and all of the realms are there. Like there is lawful good is like where Zeus lives, and you can just kind of go there and meet him and say hello.
Right.
So, like there's loads of course, it's highly magical there. Everyone's super powerful, of course.
Of course. So,
or like even in like. Even in your superhero game, there's a society of superheroes in the Anime Tales.
Yes, we actually have a comic on that called the Super Society, and if you're a patron, you can actually read that entire comic thanks to our lovely and wonderful and very generous artist, Coming Soon Entertainment, aka Coin, who did all the art for that, and I very much like it. If you want to check it out, come and be a patron and have a look, because it's a really nice comic. But yeah, it actually talks about Super Society. There are a lot of people with powers, but only certain people that actually get licenses and so on and so forth. The way that you can get a license is pretty simple. They just do a background check on you, and then they just pretty much give you the license if you're clean. But it's like a provisional. You actually have to go and prove yourself to get an actual real license. But the provisional is basically you're allowed to use your powers in self-defense, and it has to have been seen by another person, like another set of people, and like statements and witnesses and all this stuff. But it also allows you to carry certain weapons, if say for instance, if your powers require them. Or if your fighting style requires them. But then to get an actual proper hero thing, you have to take this test, and it's like a 3-stage test or something. That's in the Super Society. That's in one of the modules that we're currently writing up for Anime Tales. So you guys will be able to actually see that at some point. But that's just sort of like a side thing if you want to actually become heroes that way. Another way is getting them a provisional license and actually taking down a big villain, which is actually kind of the main way of the actual module. Is like you're trying to like basically stop this massive crime syndicate, and without spoiling anything, there are quite a lot of villains in there. And if you want to play it as heroes, that's a good way of doing it. So you can get heroes and basically get funding and all this lot, and your characters get like paid every like in-game week or something. But then, like, if not, you can always be, like, anti-heroes and vigilantes, or you can be villains, where instead you're just like, oh, no, I want to join these guys, or no, I want to take them down, and I want to be seen as, like, I want to get more street cred, and I want to be seen as better than them. There's a ton of different ways that you can really play it, based
I'm
on...
the captain now.
I am the captain
I am
now.
the villain now.
So yeah, there's different ways, but yeah, power abundancy, like, I think we state that, like, at first, in the first time, like, when powers become a thing, it is supposed to be, like, 50% of the population. And there's a lot of people with massive amounts of powers, very little powers, and some unique abilities, and so on and so forth. And we do have quite a bit of an abundancy there. But yeah, I think personally that is kind of my favourite setting, because the exact same thing that you said, Alex, which is, you know, who's it going to be this week? And then it's just, oh, and this guy shows up, and I can either make a power up on the spot and make it work similar to another power, or I can just be like, and this dude who has this level of power and this capability with it shows up at your doorstep. You must fight him now. Or even just having it there and go, okay, you guys can feel pretty powerful when you fight a bundle of like really weak but very obviously like pyrokinetics and stuff. Like where you actually get like an abundancy of these very obvious amounts of different super beings and so on and so forth. However, I'm actually going to then transition from this into then scarcity by saying I also do like scarcity, where you guys are actually some of the only superheroes, and most of this crime syndicate or most of this area or most of the good guys or bad guys that you're beating are just dudes with guns or batons or switchblades or whatever, like hooligans or cops, or you know, anyone that you are like trying to fight against as either a hero or villain or criminal or vigilante. Just, you know, the cannon fodder. And even like the main boss is just like a guy who he might be the only one with a superpower, or even he doesn't, but he's just really good at like fighting despite the fact that he has no powers, or even uses some special abilities or techniques or special items or weaponry or technology or something. And
Actually, that's one of my favorite semi tropes in in superhero movies, where you get like a bunch of humans, but oh no, they have like mech suits, and
yes,
they
that
could
seems
actually
to
go
happen quite a
toe to
lot.
toe with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although to be fair,
Oh
like,
no.
Aspen I don't think would survive very long against a guy who has power armor.
Yep.
Although,
Pretty much.
Then again, Aspen could still just go, yeah, I can control the flesh in the suit. But
Yeah, that would be it. It's sort of like, okay, I'll just snap your neck inside the suit. Now free metal. Hey, look, Cosmos, free metal.
Free power suit.
Free power suit. This is mine now.
But yeah, so like, if the roles were reversed, what would your opinions be? Like, say for instance, if we did a power scarcity thing in a campaign, either in dev plays or even on the ones that we don't record, what would your opinions be then? Like either in the forms of D&D or in Animite Tales, like what would your opinions be then for power scarcity?
Actually, it's quite funny, really, because it didn't quite go ahead as planned, which is sad. But Sam actually did try to start that a bit with his semi Marvel campaign, where we were just a bunch of
Yes,
the
I remember
only
that.
heroes that existed. Because power was so scarce, and we were like kind of all cobbled together, and we just all had to work together.
Yeah.
Because we all had disparate things. It's like, it's like you can't really pick and choose. It's like, well, we kind of have to work together, because we're the only ones with powers, and it's like, we have to take on these villains. So I kind of like that idea. I wouldn't mind trying that again. Either with Sam or with another thing, like probably the superhero thing. I'm not sure about like D&D. I have tried it with other systems like Monster Hearts, where it is kind of like Buffy-esque, where you play like, you can play as like teenagers where supernatural things are happening to them or, around them. And it's like, it is sort of, it's not quite Monster of the Week, but it is sort of like, yeah, this is sort of like an experience that's isolated to the group of players because everyone else is just kind of like, trying to ignore the weird stuff that's going on. So that was fun when I played that, where it was like there was a scarcity issue around it.
So hang on.
So I like
I've got a question for you then, Alex, and Sam. I guess
that.
based on what you just said, would you said superhero? How would you feel about a campaign where actually it's more about actually be like you start off as villains, or you're trying to become a part of a villain organization or something, and you start off as like fairly weak or fairly strong, like roughly sort of middling if not lower tier, and your group has to work together and become sort of your own villains. But most of the superheroes, those are the only ones with powers. The general sort of populace and the people who are sort of defending themselves or trying to take you down, most of the time would actually be just fodder. So in other words, like the scarcity is only towards the grand superheroes sort of thing, where it's like it's kind of like
what you're asking is, would I play a Batman villain in the Batman universe? Yes, I would. Essentially, that sounds amazing. In fact, that's like my childhood.
Because I was thinking of doing something. No, go on. Sorry, Sam.
I think you're asking is, would we play someone in the Unbreakable universe? Would we play Glass?
Oh my god! Yeah. On one hand, I'm not playing Glass because that's like the worst superpower ever. But and also, I mean, he is a genius, but it's like,
yeah,
man, he's so evil. I'm like, nah, that's yeah. It is sort of like that's the problem because I feel bad choosing the mean dialogue in video games. I'm not sure how evil I could be.
I mean, you were pretty evil in the vampire game, Alex.
I don't think I was that evil. You only see that wasn't even my final form. I mean, come on.
I still think it's quite funny though, because I mean, obviously you guys have done the HC's campaign, which for people who don't know what that is, it was a campaign where basically they become pirates, and it's still like a superhero, supervillain sort of place, but it's this thing of like on the open seas where there are no laws in between certain countries. They just pretty much can get away with almost anything. They still have to worry about navies of certain countries, but other than that, they're pretty much free to do whatever they want, plunder, destroy, pillage, or even just have fun. Like they could literally at one point just, yeah, we're just coming aboard, we're just gonna have a party, and then they're just like, no, leave our ship. I mean, all right, fine, and then it's just that thing of like, whatever. But then sometimes if they were like being attacked, then they'd be like, okay, well, I guess we have to attack back. But one of my favourite ones was, it literally went from this thing of like, this galleon is now firing at your ship. And then cut to about 5 minutes later where the ship is being sunk. And you just then have like the captain who had like part orca in his blood like comes to shore and just flops down these two limp bodies and goes, and there's just like, are they dead? Not yet. And like cut to like 2 sessions later where he's injecting powers into these non-powered humans and trying to get quote unquote results in his tests, where he's like trying to figure out how he can basically make human petri dishes with powers, and eventually he just gets like, okay, I've got lightning and aerokinesis together, so you can manipulate electricity and generate it, but you can also manipulate the wind. Awesome, so I will have this. And then he like takes parts of his blood and his organs, and then he just gets one of the crew members to basically keep regenerating him so he can keep staying alive until they've got enough stuff out of him. And later on, just like, I just want to die, and it's like, oh, I'm so sorry, but that's not going to happen, and just continued, and it's like,
you're too useful to us, and it's like, yeah, I mean, maybe that's the thing, because that wasn't me specifically, but I did let it happen, so
you never really went dark side, but there were characters that did full on go like super sadistic.
I don't think I've never ever gone full dark side. The weird thing is, I wanted it in the vampire game that Sam's referencing. I wanted to, but it's kind of weird how things turned out because I
played a good guy.
Well, it just felt bad, man. It's like
because I was a good guy, and I apologize.
Yeah,
but
I was just we were like,
you're playing the good guy, and I'm playing the completely evil guy.
Yeah, I must say I'm not looking forward to it, to be honest. Talking of like power scarcity, like I'm gonna play a Salubri in the Vampire, which are kind of like rare vampires that everybody wants to eat and oppress. And
Oh,
now
awesome.
my entire group is sort of like, you know what we're gonna do? You know what we're gonna do, Alex? We're gonna get you to make more Salubris so that we can have more to crack open whenever we want. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Oh
Like just right to
no!
my
Just
face.
oh come
I'm
on,
like,
dude.
I didn't
dude.
do that.
Yeah,
Wasn't
you
me.
didn't do that, but
Oh,
the
okay.
other, rogues gallery that's in the server were doing that.
Really?
Yeah, you didn't check coin server. It's like the fucking
Oh, I never. Okay, this happened.
yeah, that haven't yet. You clearly haven't checked the horrible monstrous things that they're doing, and they're literally just ganging up on me.
It's a good thing I will use my presence to make them wet their pants in fear.
So
I mean, I should hope so.
So what we're saying is, what we've learnt from this is really abundancy is quite good in certain situations, but I wonder, like, do you think it would be... Okay, so in the terms of villains, do you think that it would be better, or do you think it would be better with power scarcity if you were heroes?
That is a difficult because I think it could work both ways. I think depending on how you go
I
about
feel
it.
like the whole point of
'Cause
villains is that you want to have like the challenge, the chase, and the fight. Whereas like as heroes, it's like the thing of like, haha, evildoers, you will stop your evil crimes and sort of thing. And it's that usually the final boss is the big bad. Whereas like if it's good people, I don't know. Maybe it's because the war campaign that I've been running is kind of a bit different, where it's like you guys are kind of like neutral, you're kind of bad, kind of good, and you're fighting a load of overpowered characters.
yeah, war is hell.
war is hell,
Anything
yeah.
goes.
Yeah, I mean, it could be morally ambiguous. It could be like Hancock.
No, yeah,
Silence.
Do
I
either of you remember that Will Smith film?
No. I was just
I do
thinking,
remember
I was just
it.
thinking how that could work because I actually didn't mind that movie. I thought that was quite an interesting movie, kinda. But I will say,
Will Smith is a national treasure. I make no.
Oh,
he made Wild Wild West an okay film.
I will say this: he does that character some amount of service. It's just that, yeah. Anyway,
Moving on.
moving on. It's, again, that film was okay. But no, I think. Sorry, whilst I'm also talking about that, I'm also trying to come up with exactly how that would work for you guys to do some sort of morally ambiguous one. Because technically, that's what you guys are kind of doing with the war, but you're almost acting awkward. In the terms of like, should we do this? Screw it, I'm just gonna blow his brains out, sort of thing. Whereas like,
I mean, yeah,
gods among men, but you don't have necessarily that whole thing of I want to be the superhero and the untouchable like guy. You maybe even having it where it's like you guys are the only superheroes that you know, or at least super powered beings that you know, and you just kind of like, look, we can pretty much get away with almost anything. Why don't we? And it's like, or should we help people who are in need? And then it's that thing of like, oh, there's actual criminals out there who have got superpowers, or there are actual like crime bosses that are now starting to like take over the world. Maybe we should do something about that. Nah, and then just like join them or show them how it's done or something.
I would say it would be a lot easier as a villain if you were just scarcity and you just took out grunts all the time, like you just take out innocent people. Like it's sort of like the opposite problem with Batman, I guess. It's like, you just break someone's back who just gets in your way. That's a lot easier to do if you're a villain, just like, yeah, I don't actually care about the collateral damage. But with, heroes, yeah, well, I mean, we've seen it before, like, we tend to go into like morally ambiguous territory.
Well, Sam,
very quickly.
What about you? Like, do you think that it would be better as villains or heroes with scarcity, or?
I don't know. It would depend on the power, of course, and like what level we're talking about here.
Well, okay. Say for instance, if I said, all right, so all of you have let's say like, okay, it's very scarce, and you get to choose your powers and whatever, and you've got that sort of thing. that would obviously be entirely dependent. But if I was to say, like, obviously you've got this, that, and the other powers, you can't have anything too good, sort of thing. Obviously, I'd probably just have to make a list at that point. It's like, yeah, choose from this. But I think one of the problems of the Animite Tales like current module, the Super Society, is it's been a super society for 40 years, so they have technology and things that are like specifically designed against certain powers, so that they don't then have to have the problem like, oh yeah, like this thing has like got like an electrical grid going through it, so teleporters can't suddenly appear into it, and like it's got like, oh, like this particular object is like got a special metal that's constantly like got this weird radiation around it, so that therefore people with intangibility can't phase through it. Or, oh yeah, we just have, like, actual nullification bullets for, like, the highest members of this, like, hunters agency, so that then, like, the agents can, like, take down their prey without having problems to do with powers and so forth. Not literally everything is anti-power, and not literally everything is built that way, but a lot of things are specifically built with powers in mind, like, for instance, like, certain cars might be made of more durable metals because certain people might have super strength, or, doors might be a lot bigger and a lot wider, so that then people of almost any size or shape is able to fit through it, and so on and so forth. I mean, like, even like certain people's powers, they've only basically figured out ways that they could use them to basically stall people with powers. Like in the beginning of the module, there's a certain character. I won't really spoil too much, but there's a certain character in the first starting area who actually has an ability that pretty much just guarantees, like, anyone who would come into his business, pretty much almost anyone would be negatively affected by his ability if they were to do something wrong. I could not have made that any vaguer, but I literally cannot spoil it.
Yeah.
But I think Alex might
man,
know.
I know how it's going to go now. Oh man, spoilers.
So I mean, like, there's that, but okay, say for instance, like, you had your characters and whatnot. Do you think that it would be better to start off at level 0 for those kind of things, or do you think that would be better to start off at like max level and just, like the whole story is you guys just being the best, the strongest, and it's more the character development of how do you want to sort of take over this world? Like, there's still going to be people that are problematic for you. There's no, as we've always said, there's no one power that is an ultimate fix, because there's always going to be one way to stop it.
I personally would go level 0, I think, because what I've found with the dev plays is that, while we're leveling up and like discovering our powers more, we're also sort of finding our place in the world as well. Like, we're finding our own sort of like rhythm,
Yeah,
and like role in society, and it kind of goes hand in hand, I think. Whereas like I think we found with the I certainly found with the war campaign, we got a lot of levels to play with, but I personally haven't, found my right fit and right rhythm in it. It's like, it's almost like I've got a lot to live up to, really, because I have a lot of, powers and but to do, but it's sort of not adapted for what I want to do or what I've been able to do. So I'm just sort of like, how do I fit myself in here? Like, what do I want to do ultimately is still questions that I'm asking. Whereas, like, if you start at level 0, it's a lot easier. You can just like develop with the story.
Well, one of the reasons that I was actually thinking that it's actually kind of funny is I was actually going to say originally, because I now remembered, which is why I said like low level. I actually didn't mean low level levels. Is what that's what I said. I know that's what I said, but what I mean, I said that because that was the only way that I could remember it. But you've now just reminded me. If you had to start with either very useless powers in scarcity, or at least, all of you start as humans, and you have to somehow find a way of working your way into this superhuman society. So it's the opposite of scarcity, where the scarcity is you all don't have powers in a very rarely powered world, kind of like The Boys, where it's like all of them don't have powers, or at least very little of them do. And the main reason I wanted to bring this up is because technically, if it was power scarcity, Cover would be useless. And the reason I say this is because his power was to copy powers. If there wasn't anyone with a power, he his power didn't exist, and that's like at minimum 10 levels down the drain that are just not being used. And that's obviously an extra +8 levels that aren't being used on top of that, because he then had +10 SP. And obviously the first 2 power levels give you a bonus to that anyway, so you get at least a minimum of +2. So Cover would have wasted 18 levels, and he's just in the middle of this campaign. He's like, yep, I'm a level 10 power user with +10 SP, and I've got like really good proficiency with this one weapon. If that weapon is gone, my powers are not gonna save me. So I mean, I don't know. What would you sort of prefer? Like already stated powers, or would you prefer to like have a campaign where it's like you all start as humans, and then you have to try and figure up, like, say for instance you suddenly find a power or a person with a power and you're like, I want that. Or even just going like, no, you're like stuck as humans indefinitely until otherwise an opportunity is shown to you, and potentially, again, as I said, potentially even indefinitely. Yeah, that sort of thing. Would you prefer that, or would you prefer to have the choice of having powers? Is what I was asking.
Well, I always do love a bit of choice, in everything I do. But, however, having played the Animite Tales, I know how OP, humans can become if you do it right.
I mean, yeah, they can either have a lot more levels to put into their stats, or obviously there is the one thing that I know that you're thinking about, which again,
it's not just that as well. It's not just the
really
thing you're thinking of.
I think it is, but I want to hear
it's
Sam.
not
What do you think?
Sam,
which do you think would be preferable? Like 0 powers, or the choice of either 0 powers or powers?
Well, if we're doing it that we're pretty much the only ones, I'd probably go high level, because then I could fulfill my Squadron Supreme / the Injustice League, or not the Injustice League. What?
No. Injustice it is actually called. Like I think it's called the Regime.
Not Justice. The alternate universe Justice League, where they're completely evil. Not
Crime
Syndicate,
the Injustice. I think they're called
Crime Syndicate. Yes. I could fulfill my dreams of being them, or the Squadron Supreme, where they're the good guys, but they decide, bureaucracy and the government just aren't doing enough. We should take over and make everything right again. But, they don't, because they're only human. I mean, don't mean only human, but, metaphorically speaking, they are only human.
I mean, by technicality, most of them are only human, so fair enough.
Except for the aliens.
Yeah, Martian Manhunt and Superman do kind of bring that down, but
I meant more in the actual Squadron Supreme, where it's Marvel's version of the Justice League.
Yeah, but semantics.
Yeah, there's like Hyperion and stuff like that.
Thor, I guess.
Are they? Like Thor's in the Squadron Supreme.
I don't know who's in the Squadron Supreme. To be honest, I've never heard.
Squadron Supreme is essentially a pastiche again of the Justice League, made by Marvel as a kind of what if idea of the Justice League decided, you know what? The world keeps letting this crap happen with the government and all these bad wars and all this other terribleness and people just going out of jail. We should just scrap that, take over, and make the world a better place. But because they are, like, they have their own flaws and foibles, like, they don't really fix the world. They just, kind of make it a different kind of idea.
Flawed, and because of that, they also can
make it somewhat totalitarian. Yeah. Or like, I think one of the things they do is they make for criminals to do something to like give them amnesia, or try like something that messes with their minds so they stop being villains.
So what
one of the heroes uses it on one of their own after like I think sexually assaulting them.
Jeez, I'm getting flashbacks.
It's something that either sexually assaulting or doing something like very evil in front of them. I can't remember. It's something like that.
So what I'm hearing is that if you got to be able to do this sort of power fantasy, you would prefer that kind of like Injustice League, the Regime sort of, and it's sort of like you are the sort of leaders and you're trying to be whatever you want to be. Kind of like either you're just a guy who just gets away with bank robberies, or you are the perfect hitman and basically just do crimes and no one can stop you. It's like, basically, like, eventually the end game boss is either facing off against technically yourselves, realizing, oh, we are actually really bad, or obviously if your characters know they're bad and actually are doing it because they actually want to get away with stuff, it's that thing instead that the truest enemies are actually instead a bunch of people who have been sort of training off in their own arc in the background and finally come to beat you. And it could be that thing of, like, maybe each arc, if the campaign went on longer, is that each location you have this big fight with, like, these people from this location, or even these people who try and step up, and the collateral damage is so much that the area that you're currently in is no longer workable, it's no longer usable. And even if you win, it's that thing of, like, yeah, we won, but the cost is now this great city or this village or this area of this country or whatever location, or even our reputations might be ruined. People know us now, so now we need to go and start all over again. And it's that kind of thing of, like, yeah, but now you guys are higher level, you can then do it from there. I think that would be kind of an interesting way, especially because you could swap from, like, totalitarian, like practically like totalitarian gods almost, to then, like, oh, we're the supervillain gang, haha, can't catch us now, Batman. And then eventually it turns into, well, we're pirates of the oceans now. And each, like, for instance, each arc, quote unquote, season, depending on how you really want to go about it, is just them trying out new ways of how their professions still work. Like, they could all be their own profession, or they're all the same profession, but it's like each time it's like in a different genre, where it's like, okay, now we're overlords, and now we're villains, and now we're pirates, and now we're, I don't know, like, for instance, we're just like, now we're just going to do the world domination thing and just basically be, like, I don't know, like some kind of terrorists or something like that. Either way, like, each session or not each session, but each season or each arc of the campaign eventually goes until either your demise is imminent, or it's actually like, no, we're done now, or they've won, or it is just, the end of it is just they got what they needed to be done, and that's it, and that's how their stories end.
There's something you could do.
That is something I could do. There's something that could be done in your campaign. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast about... We're not
going to ask us why scarcity is good.
Why is scarcity good? Why is scarcity?
Yeah, we never actually talked about that.
We never actually talked about that.
No, we talked about how we do it in different games. Never actually talked about why it's good.
It's just that we're going quite long, but go on then. Go on.
I mean, Connor loves it long. Connor loves it. The longer, the better.
Our number one fan.
Exactly.
Yes, and
then we cater this entire podcast to.
Exactly, Connor.
I do not do such a thing, but I do. I am aware that he is our number one fan, and for that we appreciate our number one fan. We do appreciate all our fans, but you all got to be stepping up your game. So okay, yeah. so Alex, Sam, why do you think scarcity is good?
I'll still start this off.
Yeah, you go. Yeah, go for it. You go. Yeah.
No, go.
No, I said, Alex, do you want to start this off?
All right. Start off. All right. Coward. Anyway.
If you want me to start off, I'll start off. But it's just because I was talking for a while there. I thought you.
No. Well, actually, I'll put in my 2 cents about scarcity. I'm like, why? It kind of goes back to the Harry Potter thing of, like, you kind of feel special if there's scarcity around. Like, you've got the special powers, you've got the you are the one person needed for this specific situation, and I think a lot of people do respond to that. And it is, like, kind of annoying where you have, like, powers that, like, are constantly above yours, or, like, your powers aren't working very well, so it's just kind of evens it out. Like, you alone have to deal with your own powers and have to know how they work in any specific situation.
I think another thing is just going off of this, because Sam's just like gone for a second. I can actually say this. It's like in One Piece, in the very first starts of the arcs, they actually have devil fruits, powers, and only certain of them have the things. Now, later on it's an abundance. Tons of different people have devil fruits. That's kind of the power system. But it's still a scarcity, because each fruit, there's only one version of it. Only one person can have the gum fruit at a time. Only one person can have the flare fruit. So in other words, only one person can turn into fire, only one person can be rubber, only one person can be sand. So there is an abundance of the amount of fruits, but there's a scarcity of how many of that one specific model, because there's only one of them. Now, the reason why I think this is good, and this is actually bouncing off of what you said, Alex, and I'm then going to give it back to Sam, which is he's now finally back, is it created this power system of, okay, this one character has this one power. He's a devil fruit user. He has this one power. He can become rubber. He is Rubber Man, but then he has to fight against opponents that have powers that are either completely opposed to him or completely different to his. So he has to figure out ways around it. And I think that's the thing of if there is a scarcity, and yes, you're the only person who has this power, but then if someone else has another power, and you're just like, okay, well, how do we figure a way out of this, or how do we figure a way through this? Again, going back to the Misfits thing, there are sometimes powers that are just like, there's only two ways to do it. The only way to cancel this out is getting them to forcibly use their powers again to reverse it, or they have to die. And sometimes it works. Sometimes killing them works, but sometimes it doesn't. Because sometimes their powers are just as simple as, I do this and then I can kill you normally, and then it's like, oh well, you can't undo a person dying. But then something will be like, oh, I have mind control. Well, once you defeat the mind control user, he can't control their minds anymore, so therefore no one is no longer in the mind control state. So I think that's the good part about scarcity, is that it kind of creates this thing of, ooh, how do you get out of this one? And you have to create new and inventive ways, because obviously one of the problems of abundance is we just need to find a nullification user, and then their powers won't work anymore, or their powers don't work for that short period of time, so they can't control your minds anymore. So it basically hits the reset button on their powers. Like, I have an entire army underneath me. Touch. And now they're all free to do whatever they want again. Thanks, Dave. So, yeah, I mean...
That's Dave.
I mean... So, yeah, I think that's why scarcity is really cool. I think that's a good part of scarcity. What do you think, Sam? What is, in your opinion, good about scarcity?
Well... it's I think it's quite good for somewhat horror or grittier settings. What
creates tension.
It can also be used to kind of show someone trying to deal with being different from humanity by having superpowers. Right. Great example for the horror setting is for the film. So I'm hoping you've seen these. Film Brightburn.
Oh yeah.
No, but I've heard of it.
Okay. Yeah. Essentially, it is What If Superman, but when he's a kid, pretty much he was sent to Earth to take the world, as opposed to just being sent because his planet was destroyed.
So, in other words, the Goku origin story.
No, I have no idea who Goku...
Dragon Ball Z!
No! What happened was, essentially, he got... Like, he was... He grew up to be, 10, I think, or 12.
10?
Then he got, Then, essentially, he got signals to his brain telling him to take the world, and no one could stop him because he's Superman.
Yeah, he's literally just a little psychopath, and yeah.
He just lifts the car and just drops it, and there's a guy in the car, and he just breaks his jaw clean off, and just dies in that. Or someone tries to shoot him in the back of the head. That just bounces off, so he just melts his head. This is his father. He just clear out melts his head. Anyway, this is somewhat spoilers for the film. Near the end, his mother...
No, because I might watch it.
Yeah, for those who haven't seen it, watch Brightburn. It is a great film. It's a very good film.
So you're saying it can create, just again, bouncing off what the both of us said. It's really good because it does create that tension of what do now? We have to come up with a way around it, or just there is no way around it. We just have to figure out a way to be out of this thing's eyes long enough for us to survive and live a normal-ish life, or we just hope that we can find a way to stop it because you can't kill it.
It makes me think of that movie Chronicle as well, where it's sort of explores
was going to say jumper,
Yeah.
but yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I mean it's basically they're keeping their powers secret, but that's kind of like it creates this sort of dynamic where it's a very insular little friend group that are just discovering these powers together, and it's all like fun and games to start with, but then it takes a really dark turn. And the friend group, I'm with as few spoilers as possible, the friend group disintegrates, and it just gets like really dark, and there's like no one in control anymore. And they have to like, yeah, basically you have the emotions of teenagers with not very much good emotional development with death powers.
So just to clarify,
scary.
When you said disintegrates, you mean metaphorically?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying for spoilers, but yeah, we'll say for now metaphorically.
In that case,
the friendship disintegrates.
In that case, I have to obviously say jumper, which is just there's only one power, which is teleportation. That's it, and there's only a few of them, and only so many of them are. But I think it's random because certain people can be born jumpers, and they don't even have jumper parents. Where they can have the ability to teleport, and some of them end up being hunted by these people called the paladins, and etc. etc. But other times it's just like some of them are just like, yeah, we just have to run, we just have to be keeping under the radar, and then some of them are just like, I don't care, I'm going to do whatever I want, and then just ends up trying to fight each other because they're just whatever. And again, without spoiling too much, they do like the paladins do find a couple of ways to bugger up the ways that how their powers work, but again, like, it really depends as to how you really want to see it. The way that they do it is kind of interesting and kind of inventive. And it, again, puts the opposite, where it's the people with powers are actually the prey rather than the predators. And so that's kind
the X-Men!
Yes, like the X-Men. But I was actually going to say, like, the final one that I wanted to say is... No, go on then, Sam, go on.
I was also bringing up the point of people debating their humanity, which I had brought up before. I was going to mention the Great Spider-Man trilogy, actually.
Yeah,
where
I guess
mostly because he was the only one there in pretty much the world with superpowers. On like the people who
pretty
got
much
medically enhanced
up until second one, where in the second movie there's literally actually no, it's only until the third movie.
No, it's only third movie.
No, even the third movie, there only is even the third movie, there's only like one person.
Venom.
The rest of them just have
Sandman.
like enhanced strength.
Yeah, just Sandman. It's just Sandman, and then
Venom technically has
an
powers
alien.
by technicality.
Venom is an alien.
By technicality.
The point I'm kind of getting to is that he's the only one, and even in like the second film, it kind of shows how that takes a toll on him, because he's the only one. How is he meant to deal with all these things and also have a life at the same time? Because if you're the only hero, how are you meant to save everyone?
I think it's a very important thing to actually be able to bring up that kind of situation. And yeah, like the only reason why I say technically Venom is because I'm more along the lines of counting the Venom symbiote. Because he has to fight that, and it has powers similar to his and special abilities that are very difficult to deal with. Just because it has to survive on Eddie Brock doesn't mean that I'm not saying, like, oh, Eddie Brock has powers. I'm saying, like the symbiote.
That does have the copy favorite, to be honest.
Yeah. And then, obviously, as I said, Sandman. But, yeah, no, you are right. Until the third one, no one really has superpowers. It's either medically enhanced or actually just technology. And even then, the medically enhanced is more like steroids, at best. So
Captain America juice.
Yeah, pretty much. So I was actually going to say, like, pretty much just for the last thing that I want to say for scarcity is it creates a level of the importance of exactly what powers that a person has. It's like these are either downright so unique that no one else has them, or it's just that thing of like having powers in general. Even if you have the same power as everyone else, as you said with Chronicle, I'm pretty sure they all have telekinesis, and in Jumper they all have teleportation. But it's that thing of like, look, you have to hold on to this sort of thing, and it is special, but you have to be careful because of this, that, and the other. Or in Brightburn, where it's like, use it to take over the planet or whatever. And so on and so forth. It's like these different types of things. But in anything, it's that thing of really what you do with your powers comes down to your choices. And I guess you could say, with great power comes great responsibility. Thank you very much for listening. Take care, everybody.
All right, just cut out. No more Spider-Man. No more Spider-Man. Yeah, quick, end the show. End the show.
No, I was
Quick,
just
time to bring up.
I was just gonna say
Yes.
this. If you guys like and want to listen to any more of our podcast, please like and subscribe. Check out Animite Tales and also check out our Patreon, as we are also making a tabletop RPG. I am at OnGoerJoe, aka at Animite Tales, on Twitter. So if you want to follow me and see exactly what I do, then check it out. Have a look at Coin, aka Coming Soon Entertainment, or Coming Soon _Coin, as he is the artist for all of the different bits and pieces that we have on the channel. And also, next week we will be talking about something else. That's if we're doing next week, because I'm currently moving, so I might not have internet. So again, that will be posted up on Twitter, and this will actually be posted, Sam, today or tomorrow.
Good to hear.
In other words, Friday or Saturday.
And can I say, for all my Northern Irish people, happy Good Friday.
Oh yeah, it's Good Friday, isn't it?
Well,
it's Good Friday over here.
In the future.
It is still Good Friday here, so yes, happy Good Friday from England and fake Ireland.
Northern Ireland.
And
are you trying to start the troubles all over again, Joe?
No. Right, okay, I'm going. So, so if you guys liked and wanted to listen to anything else, then please do hit us up on the YouTube comments, or even on Twitter, and just at me, or just, I don't know, just comment on something and just tell me what else you want to hear us talk about, because in a few episodes' time we might actually be talking about some other things. Now, I actually have the last question, which is, do we talk about stockpiling powers? Powers that require stockpile of something or other to grant power, or actually they just stockpile power? Or absorption?
Oh.
And the reason I bring this up is because
this
was a commented a recommendation and a question by Connor, our number one fan.
It's about absorbing man.
And this
oh my
god!
We can't. Yeah, we have to do Connor's one. We have to do Connor's one. This podcast.
I mean, because he actually did come up to me and ask me like the other day, "Can you do a thing where you touch something and you get like wooden hands or something?
So
you get the power. It's metal power."
Instead, I thought that just for a special, we'd actually talk about all the powers that are similar to Absorbing Man, Parasite, and Absorption. So we're going to talk about in depth powers similar to Absorption that are in the Animite Tales.
Do I do copying and parasite powers?
Well, we'll get into that next time. Thank you very much for joining us. Take care, and bye-bye.
Bye.
See you in the future.
Ciao, ciao. For now.